Hello, welcome to another Pull from the Shelf, where I spotlight an RPG, supplement, adventure that I haven't spent a little time with, and take the time to do a deep dive and discover it along with you. So we are continuing with part 2 of the Complete Warlock. After a little polling, asked some questions at a poll here or there, got several bits of feedback regarding I should carry on with part 2. People are interested, what else is with inside this book. One person said no, generally speaking, and one other pretty much said that life is too short to watch somebody read snippets within a book and give commentary. So there you have it. But majority rules in the situation, so I'm going to continue on where we left off. Let's go ahead. All right. I believe we were getting into combat. And yes, I did talk long and exhaustively from only for about 12 pages. So we'll see how much we get through today. So fair warning, if you haven't seen part 1, if you have a moment, take a look at it so you have a general idea what this is. I'm not going to get into it. If you want to know what the Complete Warlock is, check out part 1. But continuing on with this, we are going to dive into these creators' description about combat. So goes on to say here, combat. For beginners, the numbers involved in our combat system may look a bit frightening. Try and calm yourselves because it really isn't all that difficult. Here's how it works. Any character or monster has an attack level and a defense level. The attack level of any being is determined by his hit dice. 2 hit dice equals second level, etc. Easy enough. With adjustments for strength or magic. Extremely high or low strength will add to our subject from, respectively, attack levels according to their strength table. The defense level is also determined by the number of hit dice, with adjustments for agility or magic. Some magical weapons, swords primarily, add to the attack level in combat. Normally, magical armor or shields add their bonuses to the defense level. Thus, a strength level fighter wearing plate +1 and carrying a shield +2 would be defending as 10th level plate and shield armor class. Okay, fair enough. Wherever there's a number of hit dice with a bonus, such as 1 + 1 or 2 + 3, the attack and defense levels are as follows. Here we go. If the bonus number listed is 1, the level is the number listed. 1 + 1 equals first level. When the bonus number is 2 or 3, the level becomes 1 higher. Rounding up, I suppose. 2 + 3 equals third level. Yep. Thus, a first level elf, 1 + 1, would have a basic attack and defense level of 1. A third level elf, 2 + 3, would have a basic attack and defense level of 3. The attack matrices, which I hope they have, for both weapon and monster attacks are designed to give a basic chance for a specific weapon to hit somewhere wearing a particular type of armor. All right. So here's an example. If 2 first-level fighters with strength of 9 through 10 were both wearing chain armor and carrying shields and both were using maces, each would need to roll 20 or less on a 0 to 99 percentile die, or pair of dice in order to hit with any given blow. All right, so it looks like one of the things that they changed here is moving on from a D20 to percentile attacks. So interesting. And for those who don't remember, this was written well before 1978, shortly after the release of Dungeons and Dragons, but came out in 1978. All right, so carrying on. So they go on to talk about the matrix. The attack matrix is another thing that may look scary, but it isn't. On the matrix for normal weapons, look at the left side of the table. There's a series of numbers and letters running down the left, right? Next, there are the names of weapons. Fair enough. And then there are 12 columns for various types of armor to be explained below. We have none, leather, brigandine, shield, leather and shield, brigandine and shield, chain, chain plate, chain and shield, chain plate and shield, plate, plate and shield. There is also a comment on the matrix for blows. This is the basic number of blows a man able to move at speed 12 can take, at 12 inches I should say, can take with that weapon during a combat phase. All right, so let's take a look at what they have. All right, so we have the armor up here at the top. We have the list of weapons here that they are utilizing here. It runs the gamut of most of your standards with a couple things added in there, like a Chris, Belova. I'm not entirely sure what that is. And most everything else here seems fairly standard for D&D, especially large D&D. So then, of course, like with most matrices, you meet in the middle with depending what you have, and that's what you need to roll. Did they say roll under? We need to roll 20. To need to roll 20 or less on a 0 to 99 die. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, no, it's not percentile. Yes. So this was when different die were used. Okay, 20 or less. All right. The monster attack matrix is the same for the fact that the numbers on the left do not indicate length of weapon. So we have small teeth, medium teeth, a variety of claws, pincers, a slow envelope, crushing, horns, hooves, paws, stingers, small tail or tentacle, medium and large tail or tentacle, soft or hard tentacles, and then a small, medium, large butt or head ram or head butt. I would imagine that is 4. Interesting. Yep, these were how things were done back in the day. Get out your matrices and to help you with the maths. All right, so going on, it goes on to describe blows per phase. The following section may be treated as optional for those of you not familiar with this combat system. It is designed to add realism to the game in a form of taking note of the fact that a fighter who is heavily burdened cannot fight as well as one who is carrying little or nothing. We suggest that this part only be used once referee feels fully familiar. On the attack matrices, there is a number for each weapon that represents the number of blows per melee phase that someone wielding the weapon may strike. In actuality, that number represents the number of blows that someone loaded so as to be able to move at speed 12 inches can strike. If someone is loaded, encumbered, more or less than that amount, it affects his ability to strike. All right, interesting. I mean, I am not a original D&D scholar, and as far as AD&D, we never really went into any sort of thing such as weapon length and speed and all that stuff for the most part when we were younger, so we never really used any sort of these realistic aspects, so I couldn't say if this was something that existed, or this is entirely, well, new for the day within the realm of this particular type of combat. Let's see here. Someone loaded may be able to move only speed 6, may not use any weapon listed as being 1 blow per phase. He may take 1 blow per phase with any weapon listed as either 2 or 3. All right. Yeah, so now we're getting into the extra maths for those who like the extra crunch. All right, so blows. Got it. Okay, so I mean, if you're severely encumbered, you're not going to be able to do anything with a halberd, mounted lance, large hammer, and other such pole arms. And that's, fair enough. Going on to archery. Archery combat is done on a basis very different from that used for melee. First of all, archery is done using a die number 0 through 19. Okay. All right. Okay. Rolling high is good. Rolling low is bad. Unless otherwise noted, a 19 will always hit and a 0 will always miss. Okay. In archery, there is no adjustment for attack and defense levels. Archery is mainly a matter of hitting and penetrating. As explained earlier, archery takes place during the same part of the phase as magic and goes off based on the dexterity of the archer, adjusted by adding 2 through 12. The arrow, stone, or quarrel, whatever travels at a rate of 3 inches per dexterity count. Remember, from the previous one, they do take into account not just your dexterity to let fly the arrow, but the speed of the arrow as it approaches you. Thrown weapons, axes, spears, etc. travel only 2 inches per dexterity count. The archery table is used as follows. All right, so I'm a tad confused here when they were discovering melee. So each would need to roll 20 or less on a 0 through 99 die or a pair of dice in order to hit. Cause damage with any given blow. That's not gelling for some reason for me, and I'm trying to place some sort of example in my mind of something that would utilize something like that, as opposed to using a totally different roll for archery. Other than the fact that you just need, a variety with their, obviously it's something that they need to use with the type of matrices they have set up. Interesting. Okay, so let's see. The first line is the range of the shot. Any range less than that shown needs a number greater than or equal to a number immediately below the range. Rolled 0 through 19 to hit the target, assuming no armor or other adjustments. Interesting. All right. So what do we have here? We've got range in inches. Rolls needed to hit. Okay. I see. And then we have a variety of pluses regarding and negatives regarding the type. Let's see here. The archery target normally affects the number needed to hit. Thus, if an archer is firing at a target 20 inches away, he needs a base number of 7 to hit. If he is using a short bow and that target is in leather armor, he needs the modifier in that column +1 and gets a total of 8. He needs to roll an 8 or better to hit. Each archery weapon has a line of information, including the various modifiers for firing, the number of dice damage each shot does, and the maximum range when used by a normal human or similar being. There's a separate table for hand-thrown weapons for accuracy. The target is moving at +1 per 3 inches of the target's movement speed to the number needed to hit. Okay. If the fire is moving, as with horsebow, add +1 per 3 inches of the fire's movement speed to the number needed to hit. The fire is higher than 3rd level, subtract 1, and so on and so forth. If the target is in melee, add +3 to the number needed to hit. If he is crouching, if he is prone, and so we've got a number of varieties here, mostly dealing with range and likewise movement. So already within this game, it is adding up to one of those, it's a bit overwhelming. It's a lot of maths, but if you keep doing it, it might become simpler every single time, but that remains to be seen. This definitely would be something interesting to try, like it is with a lot of these old school games where some of them are extremely unnecessarily overcomplicated. Seems like it was written by a doctorate of engineering or mathematics, and therefore for simple lay people, it's just your head just swims in it all as you're trying to figure it out. But still would be interesting to, maybe give it a go. Roll up a character or two and just play out, the combat as described to see kind of how it would have been. It's interesting to do for all of these old school games with stuff like that. So carrying on. So I'm not going to go into much detail as I did last time because I feel that I did kind of prattle on and on with some of these things, but you get the general idea of, the complications involved in dealing with both melee and archery within this game. And also, just as a reminder, this is their interpretation of early Dungeons & Dragons and how modifications they felt were necessary to make it more enjoyable for them. So carrying on, we do have fumble tables. Examples being puncturing or cutting weapon caught, lose 1 to 4 blows. Okay, so you essentially lose your attacks. To major break, an appendage being used to attack. Take 2 to 12 points damage. No further use of appendage until healed. So, Jesus. Okay, so that's on natural body weapons. So so if you throw a punch and you fumble, you could break your arm. Artificial melee weapons, disarm self and opponent, both take 0 to 3 damage. Stagger jar weapon, lose 1 to 4 blows. Archery weapons, projectile thrower, breaks bow or equivalent. And then essentially wide shots, projectile breaks, and drop bow or equivalent. So critical hits. And then we got those on the other page. So we had fumbles first. So did they go into fumbles? No. So they start off with critical hits. Whenever 2 or more beings are involved in battle, there is a small chance that one or another will do something out of the ordinary on any given blow. Sometimes this is something good, sometimes it's bad. Okay, so critical hits, critical hit, critical fumble, same thing. As you remember, a low number on the 00 to 99 roll is likely to hit, and a high number is likely to miss. With our system, an extremely low number will score a critical hit, an extremely high number will fumble. A critical hit is not always a hit that causes extra damage, but is usually something that gives the person scoring the critical hit an advantage in the melee, which I like. Not all critical hits just doing double damage is boring. Let's do something more exciting if you're going to create a critical hit or a critical fumble table. Critical hit is not always a hit. Let's see. It's not always a hit that causes extra damage, but it's okay. Yeah, we got to that. A fumble is not always a matter of being clumsy with a weapon. Again, true. It is a matter of giving one's opponent an advantage. Once you determine what number each person in battle needs to hit, take note of any numbers that you roll that begin with either a 9 or a 0. That is because numbers in these ranges have a chance to critical hit or fumble. There is a table in the combat section of these rules that shows, based on what the attack number is needed by an attacker to hit, what extreme numbers he must roll to either critical hit or fumble. For example, okay, that's what I'm looking for. If a character needs to roll a 25 or less to hit an opponent, anytime he rolls a 0-1, he must roll again to get 2 more digits. If these 2 digits are 30 or less, he has criticaled. If he had rolled a 0-0 in this case, no further roll would have been necessary since 0-0 is obviously less than 0-1-3-0. In the same case, a roll of 9-6-3-0 or higher would fumble. So on the table for each number needed to hit, the maximum number needed to critical and the minimum number needed to fumble are listed. All right. Interesting. So technically you're rolling and then you're kind of verifying to see after you hit if you have some sort of critical hit or fumble. So on the table, let's see. If the critical hit is scored, go to the hit location table. Look at the line that best describes the shape and position of the target with respect to the person striking the critical. Excuse me. Sorry. A little dry. The critical hit is scored, so on and so forth. The attacker then rolls 2 6-sided die for locations. Suppose he rolls a 7 in this case. Serpent, rear. A 7 is lower body. Depending on the weapon being used, he goes to the appropriate critical hit table and rolls a 6-sided die for severity. Fair enough. So what are the critical hits? Times 2 damage, 10% knockout. Lose all actions for 1 to 4 phase for all head hits. Wow. Up to 1.5 damage. Oh, God. 1 in 6 chance. Wing broken. If so, times 3 damage. No flying until healed. And then archery. Anywhere from, same thing, times 2 damage to 1.5 damage. 10% KO. Times 3 damage. Needs triple healing. That's an interesting take. So on and so forth. Okay, so we have the number to hit, number to critical, number to fumble, and so on from 0 through 99. All right, so where are we at here? Time-wise, we're 20 minutes in. So we're getting into their interpretations of the character classes. So not to make this one go overly long this time, and likewise, see if we want to carry on with the part 3 or not. We'll just see how many of these we can get through to keep this, I don't know, maybe an even 30 minutes or so. So we have clerics, right? So this includes character combination characters. As a cleric reaches a new level, he does not have to memorize spells or calculate spell points. Instead, clerics gain the ability to throw a large number of spells based on what is available to him or her. A cleric who knows 6 different second levels clerical spells can throw any one of them as many times as he has second level spells per day. Further, a cleric may throw a spell as if it were a higher level spell, that is, using up a 3rd level spell to throw a 2nd level one. Fair enough. So we have our listing of spells here. They do have 0 level spells: detect evil, good, or magic, heal, purify water, sanctify water, turn undead. Going as high as 6th level, cure from things like create air. Cool. Cure critical wounds, undead control, repair body, non-deterioration, dispel demon, and so on. So I'm just going to take a look at just one of the basic ones in comparison. So cure light wounds, staple of a cleric. The spell's basic healing spell. The amount of damage to be healed by any individual casting is determined as follows. The cleric rolls a 6-sided die, adds 1 to the result. If the cleric has a wisdom of 13 to 17, he then adds half point to the result. If the cleric is wisdom 18 or higher, he adds 1 point instead. The total is the amount of healing to be done. Prorated over 6 phases. If the cleric is interrupted at any point, the healing terminates at that point. The cleric must be in physical contact with the character or being to be healed throughout the 6 phases. If the contract is broken, the healing terminates at that point. Wow. Okay. Interesting. And then we have magic or magic users. So let's see here. As a magic user reaches a new experience level, he chooses spells he chooses to make up the difference between what he already knows and his new limits. For example, a magic user has just become 3rd level. He already knew 2 different first level spells and now can learn a 2nd level spell. The magic user memorizes these new spells and then is able to use them at any time as long as he has sufficient energy measured in spell points to cast the spells. Spell points are measured by adding the hit points of the magic user to his level and making any adjustment based on his intelligence. Thus, a magic user with an intelligence of 12 who is 5th level and takes 9 hit points would have 14 spell points. Interesting way of doing it. Let's see here. A magic user may not exceed a spell point allotment per day except in order directly to save his own life. His life-saving margin of spell points is equal in size to the margin of hits he possesses between unconsciousness and death. In other words, if he takes 9 hits as above and dies after taking 12 hits, he has 3 spell point margin for emergencies. Interesting. I mean, not really, the same, but, kind of like a spell burn type aspect. Interesting. Huh. Okay. Exceeding this margin means going unconscious for 1 to 6 turns and makes the magic user unable to throw any other magic or activate any magic items for the rest of that day and slows his movement by 1/2. So, yeah, I mean, very similar to how Spellburn and DCC, you are burning physical attributes, and of course there'll be detriments regarding that. This kind of, touches on the same thing. That's an interesting take, and I would imagine this is definitely one of the things to make, pretty much the first several iterations of Dungeons and Dragons make their magic users a little less squishy and also make them more useful in regards to their abilities other than just a one and done and suddenly a torchbearer for the rest of the game. All right. As you may have noticed, our list of spells does not entirely match the one used in regular D&D. The reason for this is that we felt the spells at each level should be similar in difficulty. A difficult spell shouldn't be 1st level just because it would be nice if it were there or convenient. The main thing to remember is that there is a difference between magic and miracles. Magic has its own consistent rules and limits. Otherwise, not only is magic not usable in a game, it isn't even feasible in a world of any kind, real or imaginary. Okay, that's a stance. Excuse me. So, in the case of a damaging spell such as a lightning bolt, the amount of damage done is usually 1 6-sided die for each level of the caster. Okay, this damage is to be applied to everyone hit by the spell, not divided, unless otherwise protected. There are some spells which do less than 1 die of damage per level of the caster, and these are known in the spell descriptions. Assume 1 die of damage per level of the caster otherwise. When a spell is cast on a being or object who then makes his or its saving throw, the amount of damage is normally cut in half. Otherwise, the spell description states otherwise. Thus, the recipient of a 6-die lightning bolt will only take 3 dice of damage upon making a saving throw. Okay, so you are essentially reducing the dice roll, not necessarily dividing the damage in half. All right, so it's going on to talk about magic and theory. We won't go into that too much, but let's just see what they have to say real quick. While in history and in fantasy, there have been many ideas of just how magic worked. We chose to adopt a relatively straightforward set of concepts. The magic takes effort on the part of the magic user. The magic requires control of various forces. And there is a connection between the magical elements and the powers of magic. Interesting take. Okay. So, okay, let's read this part here. Once a magic user has memorized a spell, he has it at the tip of his tongue or finger and may use that or any other memorized spell as long as he has spell points last. As his spell points last, sorry. For example, A 12th level magic user with 40 spell points could spend them all in casting first level spells, somewhere between 10 and 40 of them, if he so desires, or on some combination of his higher level spells. The main thing to remember is that there's a difference between magic and miracles. You've said that before. Magic has its own consistent rules and limits. Just because you think it would be nice, just because you think it would be nice to have a spell doesn't mean it should exist. A first level spell of obliterate enemy might be useful, but not good, since it would be completely out of line with the other first level spells. We realize that this example is silly extreme, but we have seen many suggested spells that had to be turned down for just that reason. Oh, haven't we all? Let's see here. You may notice that some of the spells on the list do not match those published by others. As to spell level, this reason is simple. If a spell is too powerful to be controlled as a first level spell, we don't allow it to be a first level spell. Just remember that in your own play, and you won't run into the problem of what to do when the enemy magic user throws his 4,000 die X-ray laser spell at you when you know that the guy is only a 5th level magic user. Magic without limits is not usable in the game and isn't feasible in a world of any kind, real or imaginary. All right, fair enough. So, what do we have here? First level magical spells. We have Activate Wand. We have Charm a variety of things from amphibians to reptiles and persons. Detect all sorts of things. Alignment, attitude. Altitude. Copper, gold, iron, many other things. Sloping passages, walls, and water. Hold, portal, light, match, light, fire, muscle spasm, protection, read languages, and so on. Running a variety of spell points required from 1 through 4. Okay, and then cost to research. And then continuing on. So, let's see. And their spells go to... Wow. Interesting. Huh. Up to 6th level. All right, I'm just curious. All right, I'm always really like, when I get to games that have spells, and they do have spell levels, what some of the ridiculous, high-level spells and their descriptions would be. Let's see here. What do we have here? All right, 6th level spell. Let's just pick one here. So let's see what Disintegrate does. The spell will cause an individual object of any kind other than that of a magical nature to disintegrate. Any living being or object will only disintegrate if it blows its saving throw against magic. Range of spell, 6 inches. Maximum size of object, none. None, except entire object must be in range, or segment to be disintegrated must be in range. Wow. Okay. No maximum size. Is there an odd one in here that really doesn't do any sort of reflect D&D? Not really. I mean, most of these are kind of standard with different names. Part water. There we go. Oh, you never know when that's going to be needed. You could be saving, all sorts of people and need to part the Red Sea for them to make your escape. A spell which will create a dry surface below the level of water no more than 2 inches deep for as long as the spell is maintained. Now, that's not 2 inches. That's, I believe, 2 feet deep. Really? Only 2 feet? This spell can be shaped either as a 2-inch radius circle or as a 1-inch by 6-inch corridor. Okay. And thus making either a dry circle or a subsurface bridge. Range from caster, 12 inches. All right. Interesting. So yeah, so they've really, kind of taken the aspect of D&D and ran with it and really kind of made it their own. All right, where are we at time-wise? We are at 29 minutes. And what do we have left? We only have a few more pages in this book, so let's just go ahead and get through these last few classes, and that will be the end of the complete Warlock. So thieves. What do we have here? This includes Thieves as a thief researches a new level. He learns new abilities up to the limit of the difference between what he already knew and what is now possible. Further, a thief must learn abilities of any one type, such as lockpicking, in order to form first to high-level abilities. Okay, fair enough. The Thievish Achievement Table lists just how many total abilities each level of Thief may have. Very good. Some of the Thievish abilities require materials to be used. Tie up with ropes requires ropes. Huh, really? And the referee should make sure the thief has all necessary materials available when attempting to use any given ability. Some of the abilities listed have a percentage number attached. Okay. And always remember that whenever the adjustment or bonus has to make sense in terms of the ability mentioned. If in doubt, reread the description. Yep. And then little subsection here about halflings. As they reach each new experience level, have the special bonus of being able to learn one first level thievish ability, such as Hide in Shadows 50%. These thievish abilities may be repeated, learned more than once, with the second and third times being half the listed bonus. Okay. So their thievish abilities are as follows: detect evil, detect good, detect magic, evaluate treasure, Jimmy Portals. I guess they make a friend named Jimmy Portals. Yeah, that was a dad joke. Deal with it. Most pick most locks. Mostly unlockable. Dagger plus stew. This allows the thief to attack with a dagger to attack. All right. Note that this ability does not mean it's a magical dagger. Yeah. Same with short swords, slings, sure strike, dagger ×3. Detect noise, 1 out of 6. Hide in shadows, jam portals. Jimmy's big brother. Move silently. Spot hidden items. Cheat at game of skill. All right. Somebody maybe needed a thesaurus back then. Sleight of hand. Pilfer from backpacks and saddlebags exclusively. Lie convincingly. Map deciphering. Read one extra language. Start fires and tie up with ropes. All right. And then going on to deal with you can do parry. Some of these increase. Bump of direction, disguise, self, see in the dark, tracking, ventriloquism, and then good Lord, let's see here. What do they get at, how far do they go? 6th level? Yeah, 6th level. Bypass all normal traps. Double dagger throw, double dagger melee, sap, alchemy, okay, make poisons, thief trap setting, mimic movements, detect counterfeit, escape from ropes, special trap setting, and grappling hook, and spot thievish ability. And then closing with thieves must beware, justice's sword. And then we have player character creation. So 8 steps. Let's breeze through these and see if we can close this off under 40 minutes. Creating player characters. So there are 8 characteristics which need to be determined initially for each character. These are strength, intelligence, wisdom, constitution, size, agility, dexterity, and charisma. These are each determined by rolling 3 6-sided dice, 1 for each of the 8. Record the results as the characteristics are normally permanent after step 4. Normally. To give you some idea, yeah, we know. Determine the character's initial amount of gold. This is done by rolling 3 6-sided dice and multiplying the results by 10. Choose the character's type from those available. While any character may be a fighter, other character classes require basic requirements, except in the case of the dwarves, whose strength must be rolled at least 15 naturally. The requirements for a character classes may be met, including any adjustments made in step 4. Okay, so what is the step 4? Adjust the characteristics according to the following. No characteristic may be lowered to a value less than 9. Magic users and elves may raise intelligence by 1 for each reduction of wisdom by 2. Okay, so we got a point trade-off system here. Characters may raise wisdom by 1 for each reduction of strength by 3. Ooh. Or for each reduction of intelligence by 2. These may raise ability by 1 for each reduction of strength by 2, or they may raise strength by 1 for each reduction of intelligence or wisdom, not combined, by 3. All types, except magic users, clerics, and thieves, may raise strength by 1 for each reduction of intelligence by 2, or for each reduction of wisdom by 3. All right, and one thing I'll give them is they are chock full of examples in here, which is nice. It's needed. In other words, a cleric with strength 14, intelligence 13, wisdom 15 could be adjusted to strength 11, intelligence 11, and wisdom 17. 3 were subtracted from strength, 2 from intelligence, making a total addition to the wisdom of 2. All right, step 4A. Oh, roll on the special characteristics table. This rule is optional. Any character should roll in this appropriate column for his type. Elves should roll either fighters or magic users, depending on which is higher. So what is that? Special characteristics. Oh, I see. All right. So you kind of get a little extra bonus. Fighters can get a -1 to swords, to pluses, minuses, negatives to their saving throws, percentiles to things such as parry, and then magic items. Huh. That's kind of cool. Let's see here. Wow, that sucks. Thieves. Poor balance. Can't fly or climb. Well, thank God that's optional. All right, carrying on. Step 5. Determine the character's weight and maximum carrying capacity for the weight and strength effects tables. Determine the number of hits. Purchase from the funds available to the character the armor, weapons, and other equipment they may need. Step 8. From the time of their first expedition on, player characters must pay for their upkeep at inns and such. The cost reckoned to be 1% of their gold per game month. In addition, clerical types should pay tithes of 10% of any earning to their church. Upkeep costs, but not tithes, cease upon completion of a stronghold. Subject to the requirements for building a castle, so on and so forth. Special characteristics after that. This is mostly very simple. For each character, roll a percentile die or pair of dice lowered or numbered 0, 1 through 100. Look at the column for the particular type of character and put accordingly. All right. So examples here. A weapon name. -1 means that the character is a -1 attack level for archery, appropriate with that weapon, as appropriate. And then we determine languages. Each character has a language learning ability and points equal to intelligence plus wisdom divided by 4. All right, fair enough. And then they go on there. They've got languages, so common. And then looks like they have alignment languages, lawful, neutral, and chaotic, Elvish and Dwarvish, and then they have other things such as Greek, Latin, Norse, Arabic, Dragon, Giant, Kobold, Trollish, Wisp, and Old Forest. And then they finally close with weapon descriptions, probably of certain things that we won't be familiar with, but Chris is a wavy-bladed Malayan dagger, short swords, warhammer, beaked hammer, broadsword, longsword, narrow falchion, wide falchion, samurai, battle axe, great axe, bulova, which I was curious about. This is a type of two-handed axe with 4 points. Take a 5-pointed star, cut off 1 point, and lay the now flat edge along a pole. That's the shape, rather than a single cutting edge. Morning star, flail, maul, falchion, and lucerne hammer. And there you are. That was the complete Warlock. I mean, what can I say? It definitely is an interpretation of D&D, and I think they've taken a lot of artistic artistic measurements or some creative modifications for the game to definitely make it more interesting in a way. Again, reminding you that this was, 1978, so it's not like we have the hundreds of different systems that were available to us at the time. But yeah, this is definitely something that would, lean towards the creation of other games. People seeing Dungeons and Dragons either not really happy with the take on it, feeling like they can do it better. Some succeed, some don't. I don't really have an opinion on this just yet. This would definitely be something that would play out better on the table in order to get a proper opinion. It definitely, without question, carries the same weight of a lot of the older games, in its complexity, in its kind of unnecessary mathematics for quite a lot of things, but that was the flavor of the time. I have seen far worse. Legend, Spawn of Fashan, things such as that gave it a good go, but weren't really designed to be something that would be universally appealing. And with things such as like Legend seem to be made strictly for a particular type of person or my mindset in regards to complexity. Well, there you are. Part 2, the complete Warlock. This has been another pull from the shelf. Hope you enjoyed this. This one was going to round up about the same time. For those of you who like this, I appreciate it. Thank you for voting on whether I should do part 2 or not. I'm glad to be able to close this out. And for those of you who decided not to do a part 2, I mean, if you're watching this, what are you doing here? But there you go. And I assumed if you voted against me doing part 2, you're not bothering because life's too short. And thank you for watching this episode. Thank you for all the new people who subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate it. It's been a nice lead off into 2023. A little quick side note. This was supposed to be coming after the video I was going to do with my wife regarding the the art comparison for classic and new RPG artists. Unfortunately, for those who don't follow me on Twitter, my daughter broke her ankle last weekend while ice skating, and therefore that kind of fell to the wayside. And my wife is now back at work, and we'll have to see if we can maybe roll that together this weekend or something, depending on my daughter's situation. So we shall see. And thank you everyone on Twitter who did provide a lot of wonderful comments for my daughter, and she appreciates it, and I know that she read every single one, and a bright smile went across her face. So thank you one and all. If you like this video, please subscribe, please share it, do all the normal stuff that people say regarding the end when they end their YouTube video. And also, please check out the podcast I co-host with Keith from Rolling Boxcars, Titterpigs. There'll be a link in the description. And coming next is going to be a video where I do another unboxing of something that I received from Goodman Games. What that will be, we'll find out. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.